So I'm sitting there thinking about what is the legacy of the Queen. And so I'm just going to rattle off the 15 names of the prime ministers who had served under Queen Elizabeth. So at the very least, she was a good chairwoman from the passing of the torch from one prime minister to the next. At the very least, what is that, the chief of the Supreme Court Justice? He's the guy that does it for America's presidency. Sir Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, Anthony Eden, Harold Macmillan, Alec Douglas Home, Harold Wilson, Edward Heath, Harold Wilson, James Callahan, Margaret Thatcher, John Major, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss. And Liz Truss, not Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak, close, but no cigar. Close, but no cigar. Winston Churchill said that she was too young. She's just a kid. She was 26 years of age when her father died, and it was thrusted upon her. The monarchy was thrusted. What is the monarchy? What are we even talking about? It is a historical moment, and so I'm sitting there thinking about the historical implications and I guess what it means to me. Ultimately, I'm against royalism and the monarchy, and I like constitutional. I like what America was talking about back in the 1700s and still today. But she reversed or tried to undo the imperialism into some sort of commonwealth. She's a figurehead for a lot of things. She's like on the money. She's like on a whole bunch of people's money. Canada, the Commonwealth is like 50-something nations. So just thinking about the Charles III will probably be, sitting at, it used to be the British Commonwealth, but then people got pissed off about that adjective, and so now it's just the Commonwealth. The idea was just a friendship, a brotherhood of nations. Instead of Britain dominating over everybody, they're going to have a brotherhood of nations. Elizabeth II started being queen in 1952, and then she's going to die in 2022, so that's 70 years. 70 years. She was born, 1926. But her queenship is 70 years long. And so I do wonder if the second Elizabethan period might be like the post-1950s. After 2000, that's the postmodern millennial period. But from the 1950s to 2000, what is that? And the first Elizabethan, isn't that like... the first Elizabethan era. What dates were those? The Elizabethan era, Yugoslav, communist leader, Tito, the visit, biography. Elizabeth was born 1533 and then she died in 1603. So she had lived to be 70 years of age. So the Elizabethan area is at the 1500s. Oh, back in the 1500s. Back in the Elizabethan age. Maybe I could see something like that. History is weird. I kind of hate... There's some things that are shortcuts. When historians talk about history, it's easy to just say Elizabeth II represents, all of England. But it's the United Kingdom. And it's Great Britain. Great Britain is England and Scotland and Wales. United Kingdom is the Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales and England. And you got the Irish island and you got the English island. You sons of bitches. You guys try to trick, and then with the Commonwealth, it's almost like, okay, it's like she's trying to trick everybody with her imperialism. No, I get a rule over everybody. No, I'm the queen of the world. No, we don't like that. Nah, we're getting out of here. Nah, wait, hold on. Let's all be friends, and we'll all be equals. Okay, that sounds all right. But I get to sit at the head of the table. All right, fine. Fine, you get to sit at the head of the table. And then that was enough to keep the empire together. So I don't know what the Commonwealth is. It's whatever the Charles III wants it to be. It's whatever the Commonwealth wants it to be. It's like, it could be, NATO and the European Union, America, the federal states of Brazil, the federated states of Germany. They can be whatever they want to be. They can be whatever they want to be. I also think about the Anglophone region. So you have a lot of people speaking English. Could you turn the Commonwealth into just an appreciation for speaking English? Because it seems like it doesn't make any sense to like be disrespectful of people speaking English. If there are other nations out there that speak English, then that's wonderful. English is probably the lingua franca for today's world when it comes to all the computer code and computer language. I mean, it's English, right? We won. There's a benefits to having a lingua franca. There's a benefits to having one world language. Everybody can understand you. And then when another nation who, spoke a different language learns English, you can understand them. And so, communication is being better established. 6% of the world is represented in Australia, Canada, USA, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and England, and New Zealand. So that's the core of the Anglophone region. But the Anglophone region is a lot of people. A lot of people have English as their official language. She liked to talk about tradition and continuity. I just feel like it's all a bunch of bullshit. She's sitting at the head of the table maintaining the empire. She looked over, all those genocides that happened in the last 70 years. And it's, 1952, so it's after World War II. What was it? Vietnam, Korea, Kenya, Ireland. What was the, Rwanda, South Africa. She's just on the wrong side when Margaret Thatcher's on the... So, and then the English-speaking, let's finish up, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cameroon. There's an Anglo region, the Anglophone region in Cameroon. So, the idea that there's a bunch of brothers, a bunch of African brothers in Africa, I think is fucking awesome as shit. Not only do we have an opportunity here, as Americans, let's assume my vision of the world is the way that we do things. Instead of just militarily dominating the world, we try to make ourselves fucking cool as shit. Nobody wants to be, outside of the cool kids club. There's the worst feeling in the world is to not be part of the cool kids. Even the people that, I don't care if I'm cool or not. Isn't that pretty cool when people say stuff like that? So I'd be pissed off if I was a prime minister in England. Some people, will say it's Elizabethan era, but why isn't it the fucking John Brown? Let's look at all these. I mean, my God, 15. I think this is, if anything, I'll give a standing ovation. I'll give a standing ovation for Elizabeth II. Good show, old lady. Good show. She's like all fucking hunchbacked over. Even that one guy was like, why is Boris Johnson our prime minister? He never said, why is Elizabeth II our queen? He never even questioned that. Liz Truss was against the monarchy. She says that everybody in the royal pavilion was opposed to the monarchy or were not monarchist. And they were very reactionary. She said, I think it's poetic that the person who had questioned the monarchy is the one that shook hands with the monarch. This was the main public thing that she did 2 days prior to dying. She handed the power over to Liz Truss, took the power from Boris Johnson, so she was an excellent referee for the secession of power. She was an excellent referee, and perhaps you need something like that, the chief of the, Supreme Court. You need a referee. In fact, that's the most important part to any kind of game. It's got to be a fair game. You got to have a fair ref. You got to have a fair official referee. It's also interesting how a lot of things get recorded in the English press and then the parliament and all the other stuff, but there's a conversation that's held between the prime ministers and the queen every week that nobody knows a single word of. Nobody has any clue what is being said between the queen and the prime minister. So that's interesting. I think it's poetic that Liz Truss had questioned it. That's, that's just freaking beautiful, right? To be able to say and dream of, the most extreme ideals, and perhaps right now is a good time to get rid of the monarchy. If I was a monarchist, if I was part of the monarchy, I would want to get out of the monarchy business. You don't get to rule over people just because you were born into the thing. You have to earn the thing. So you got to become the prime minister if you want to become the king or the queen. The king or the queen ain't nothing. I mean, except for what? Just the damn face of on the money. And even then, why are you? Doesn't even make any sense. The prime minister should be the new royal family, the new so-called king and queen and the royal family that the entire nation rallies behind. I heard that she was pro-constitutionalism, which is interesting because I don't even think they call themselves a constitutional monarch because of tradition. There was the Magna Carta and habeas corpus and the English Bill of Rights. But that happened not under the monarchists. It happened under the parliamentarians. So the English Bill of Rights, they chopped off Charles I's head. And then they passed, the Bill of Rights or, right around the same time. So, and then that was also Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes came out of the English Civil War. Thomas Hobbes, he wrote the Leviathan, and he says, man, we can't have everybody just killing everybody. We need to have a strong state, a strong sovereign monarchy, a dictatorship, a totalitarian, a Leviathan, a nation state that's more powerful than all the other gangs of New York. So it looks to me that the Commonwealth is the British Empire, the shadow of the British Empire. The Queen was trying to keep a hold of it for something. And perhaps if we just said, let's be cool to the world, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cameroon, Nigeria, these have English, the either areas, Anglophone regions, they are official language. English is an official language of these countries, even though it's not the main language they speak. Nigeria is like 200 different languages. Ghana, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa. People are already speaking English in Cameroon. They're already speaking English in Kenya, South Africa, North and South Sudan, India, Pakistan, Guyana. And since they're already speaking English and it's the official language, it just be cool about it, right? Be cool about it. It'd be cool if English people started learning another language or two. So, I mean, okay, yeah, having a lingua franca, one world language, and everybody doing English is great. But if you could pick 4 or 5 languages, what languages would you like to? Do you want to talk to the Chinese people, the Russian people? Do you want to know what's going on in Sweden? What the hell's going on in Ireland? They don't even speak. I mean, it's an official language, but Ireland is Gaelic. They're right next door. And the Angles. So perhaps she was queen of the Angles, queen of the English speakers. India, Pakistan, who thinks of them as, part of the Anglophone? Most of the core of the Anglophone is New Zealand, Australia. Good day, mate. New Zealand, they got all those sheep out in New Zealand. England, USA, Ireland, England. Ireland, but they don't speak. And then Canada, there's French, bunch of frog-eating French speakers up there. So I was going to compare and contrast a couple other individuals. There's being a progressive, you got to be careful with these royalist sons of bitches. Because people fall in love with the individual. Anastasia, in the legacy and lore of Anastasia, freaking gorgeous. Right, the Bolsheviks had a revolution and just killed all the Romanovs. But nope, the little one escaped. And so the queen is still out there. So the lore of Anastasia lives on because, so I want to think about Elizabeth both as a woman, as an old lady, and then as the office. And I'm not sure, I think she tried to turn the office into something. They're sitting there, they have all this gowns and this pageantry and all this other bullshit. Regalia. They're the king and the queen of the Angles. They're the kings and the queens of the English-speaking world. And if that's the case, if you're the king and queen of the English-speaking world, then the way that you win is you win hearts and minds. You win hearts and minds by being cool as shit. And don't just wear the coolest clothes or whatever, but actually help countries develop their water systems and their government democratic systems and their elections. Actually help other nations. You could still be the, badass motherfucker on the block, have all the guns, have all the military, but, speak softly and carry a big stick. No, we're all going to be equals. Yep, no, as a world body, the United Nations is what, but we will be our humble republic selves in the world body. We're going to treat the world as equals. We are just one block to, an overall, there's 200 nations. So we are just one nation of 200. Great Britain is Scotland, Wales, and England. The United Kingdom is all those things too, plus Northern Ireland. So the United Kingdom is Great Britain plus Northern Ireland. So when they say, or then there's Britannica, there's the Commonwealth, there's the Union, there's Britannica, there's NATO, there's the European Union. And nations, there's a difference between a nation state. A state is the boundaries where you were born in that, state. The nation is what you believe in. So you could be born in Kentucky but not be a Kentuckian because you just don't believe in whatever a Kentuckian was supposed to be in. So the idea of a nation state is two different things. A nation, there's a Jewish nation, a black nation. There is a big blue nation. There's college sports teams people support. Those are, quasi-nations, but that's economic nations. People spend money doing those things. And then there's, probably political alliances when it comes to things like that. The reason why I mention that is because a nation, you could be a part of. So English, it doesn't really move me that I speak English, but since I happen to speak English, it's, cool as shit that Canada and Australia and New Zealand happen to speak English too. So, let's talk about the comparing and contrast the individual. So, you have, the old lady. An old lady died, right? An old lady died. What did they say? She's 95, 96 or some shit. Almost made it to 100 years old. My godfather, he died, 50-something years old? 50-something. He still had 20 more years left. The average lifespan is 76. She lived 20 years over the average lifespan. John Adams, he died when he was 83 years of age on July 4th, 1826, exactly 50 years after the Declaration of Independence. John Adams' final words was, "Thomas Jefferson still survives." Robert Kennedy's final words were, "Is everybody else okay? How's everybody else?" He just got shot in the head and he's dying and he's worried about everybody else. Did anyone else get shot? And John Adams was incorrect. So John Adams, there's, when it comes to poetry, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, only Elizabeth II's poetry can be compared to. Thomas Jefferson died the same day. And he actually died 5 hours earlier at Monticello. So he died at his estate. John Adams, when he died, he's like, at least Thomas Jefferson still lives. But he had actually fucking died. So we lost two great, and actually the founders are incredible progressives. The Bill of Rights, the three branches of government, the Constitution. I don't hear anybody talking about that shit today. When it comes to eras, if I was a prime minister, Winston Churchill serves for 3 years, 162 days. Anthony Eden, 1 year, 279. 6 years for Harold Macmillan. So when it comes to an era, let's just pick the goddamn 80s. Who ran the 80s? Well, you would think it was Margaret Thatcher, right? She was the prime minister during the entire 80s. But if it's the Elizabeth, II era, well then it wasn't Margaret Thatcher at all. So when I think about time, sometimes I'll give, what do I give? Voltaire maybe a century? I don't give too many people an entire century. Who is Michelangelo? That's a pretty good one. Leonardo, Michelangelo, Da Vinci. Give him an entire century. That's not bad. Jesus, you probably could get away with giving Jesus a century. But when I think about time, basically it's postmodern, 1800 on. So it's small enough. I don't need to break it up into 100 years. I just need increments of 10 years. I see decades and I see presidents. When I look at American history, it's like fucking exciting. You had this president going that direction, this direction. The people wanted this. There was an election. Then they went this direction. And the story is awesome. There's a continuity. There's a traditional continuity there without having some asshole saying, I'm the one that's in charge. Some king or queen that just steals the power, steals the crown and the throne. And I wear all the gold stuff and I'm the one in charge. Thomas Jefferson still survives. So the 1980s is Ronald Reagan and Johnny Carson, right? I mean, Johnny Carson basically ran the 1980s and with a nice, steady, slow hand. Ronald Reagan was the inspirer, the great communicator, the inspirer in chief. Howard Zinn, he is going to die in 2010. He's going to die of 87 years of age. So a lot of these people live longer than my godfather, Tim Gripshover. Howard Zinn is a man, and he lived on the planet. He died of a heart attack. That sucks. 87 years of age, 2010. He died in Santa Monica. He was swimming in the hotel pool, and he had said that he hopes that people... that he gave, what his legacy is that he gave hope and power to people that they didn't have before him. And that's absolutely true. Howard Zinn, I definitely get hope and power and empowerment and hope from Howard Zinn. Howard Zinn's fucking amazing. Howard Zinn's embedded in my soul. I am Howard Zinn. I am part Howard Zinn. So John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, fucking poetic. I mean, Elizabeth too. I feel like that's the biggest thing is the 15 prime ministers. John Major. So she could say she just has like an essence over the whole thing. Maybe this second Elizabethan area might be given to her for, hell, maybe the transition from the internet and modern age from, she did come from 1950s. So what, back when there was Quaaludes and shit? Back when they had muscle cars, big fat like gigantic. Do you see when they pulled up with that silly car? Anyways, Tony Blair, John Major, the Gordon Brown, David Cameron. So when you look at the 1980s, I would say it was a Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Johnny Carson era, and not a Elizabeth era. So, just the overall era. Can we hand it to her? I hope not. I freaking hope not. Give it to Jim Carrey. I'd rather give the era to Jim Carrey better than Elizabeth II. I don't hate the old lady. I hate the office. I hate the imperial office. I hate the arrogant, oppressive, I was born in this spot. This is me, mine. I get to rule over you sons of bitches, and that's just how it is. Fuck that. That's the source of hierarchy. That's the source of oppression. And that's why I think it's actually reasonable for the monarchy to get out of the monarchy business. Maybe stay in it the way it is, but just be an influencer. A cool-ass, a TikTok influencer. Just somebody that wins hearts and minds. And that's why, when they don't have a Bill of Rights or a Constitution, they should spread, the three branches of government. Just even English. Do we even have an Institute of English? Do we even have, like, a definitive... What's the definitive... English dictionary? Do we have an English, language institute anywhere? Because that may be Britain's best export, and it's just a best natural export communication. It's almost like the U.S. dollar. It's a reserve currency, right? It's the reserve language. You're French and Swedish. Let's just both of us speak English. So it's just a tool in the toolbox. Use it to our advantage. English Language Institute, in-person, remote. It's a center or department in a university like in New Zealand. ELCs accounted for 1/5 of the 11 billion revenue. Okay, so they have... A lot of universities have different English language institutes. University of Chicago, Syracuse, Bellevue College. So who the hell has... Because a lot of times I'll actually go to, is it Wiktionary? Or, what do you do when you have like a English slang? There's like a website for English slang. And it's something I go to like all the frickin' time, and I don't see anything right now. Let me, She was giving shade to her. What does giving shade mean? What does throw shade mean? You got Merriam-Webster. Okay, whoa, Merriam-Webster's jumping on board here. But it should come up with... Oh my goodness. Giving shade. UrbanDictionary.com. Thank you. Thank you. Giving shade is similar to having beef. No, it's not. No, it is not. Giving shade is just a skank face or a stank face. Just a mean mugging, a moment mean mugging. You could playfully give some shade, but you could give some hardcore shade too. Having beef is when you want to fight a person, you know. You may want to having a beef. They're saying a person who gives some shade may want you to give some beef. UrbanDictionary.com. Let's just go to the... I have gone to UrbanDictionary.com a bunch of times, and I'm a little bit resentful of having such great English skills and not having many English speakers to verbally spar with. Shade is a subtle, sneering expression of contempt. The first recorded use of shade refers to an insult from the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning. All right, so that's Merriam-Webster. They're trying to be cockamamie. You cockamamie, that's crazy, off kilter. So the Urban Dictionary is helping teach people too. You cockamamie son of a... Why would you tell them? Why would you say that? You're a little off kilter. No, this cockamamie washing machine, it's kind of, I feel like it's like motherfucker without saying motherfucker. This motherfucking washing machine never motherfucking works properly. This cockamamie washing machine never cockamamie works properly. Cockamamie. Who the hell uses cockamamie? Give me a better word. No, you give me a better word. Let's go ahead and do it. Refresh. Is that what we need here? Cockamamie just keeps on. They're really pushing this cockamamie thing. Browse. Yeah, let's go with Q. Q spot, Q tip, Q vo. Let's see here. Quassam. Casey. Catastic. Qatar hero. Is anybody just punching in words? I don't know about some of these long words. Let's just go to the very end. What's the last word in Q? This is ridiculous. Okay, so no English Oxford one dictionary, right? There's Wiktionary. Merriam-Webster, I think, is a pretty Oxford, Merriam-Webster. Slang, there's like this shit in slang. And then Urban Dictionary. So that's and then really whatever I feel like saying. I'll throw some French in, some Creole, some Spanish. Whatever I feel like. If it's got a nice cadence, if I like the sound of it. So that's another thing. It's English is a melting pot of a whole bunch of stuff. So there's no official real English, and maybe that's good because we can. Anyways, compare and contrast. Princess Diana, August 31st, 1997. She died at 36 years of age. She was the people's princess. She was born in 1961, died in 1997. So she got to live through the Johnny Carson era. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to die at 87 years of age. Same age that Howard Zinn died. 87. 83 for John Adams. Or 83 for Thomas Jefferson. 90. John Adams lived to be 90 years of age. 200 years ago. My God, how many extra years did they live, more than my godfather? Liz Truss, that's interesting, she's using some Stalin-esque power moves right there. Liz Truss, I mean, my God, Lenin was the leader and then Stalin's the leader? Okay, fine, I guess we'll just... Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she died at 87 years of age in 2020. September 18th, 2020, she had a state funeral. And it's to the hilt, not to the tilted hilt. It's not to the tilt, to the hilt. I don't know what hilt is. Lukashenko has been around for 26 years. Paul Biya has been around for 40 years. These are literal dictators, right? Stalin for 40 years, Putin for 23 years. So even though I'm kind of pissed off that, if I'm a prime minister, I think of eras and decades, especially right now with the acceleration of technology, and it's going to be decade by decade, and to think that somebody's going to be around 70 years, I don't. So, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that is she the rock on which modern Britain was built on? Because that's what Prime Minister Liz Truss. Prime Minister Liz Truss admires the Queen because the Queen bestowed the power to her. Whereas the liberal Democrat Liz Truss was not a big fan of the Queen. Anyways, even though I'm pissed off that she was in there for such a long time, because it's almost like she was an asshole that just kind of sat at the head of the table. And it's like, does she actually think she's in charge of all of us? I mean, we let, you're an old bag and we let you sit up there because you've been doing it for a while, but you really don't have much of a say-so of anything. You don't spend the money. You don't make military decisions. You've got no say-so. You've got no say-so at all. Maybe the Commonwealth. Maybe the European Union. Maybe NATO could be turned into an English-speaking vessel. What's the best thing in America? I mean, not just English, Constitution, 3 branches of government, Bill of Rights. I think, goodness gracious, these are the menus. This is what we should be giving to the world. So what I'm saying is, even though I'm pissed off that she tried to take 70 years, I'm actually happy that she's more than Stalin. She beat Paul Biya and Stalin and Lukashenko and Putin. So that's good, huh? All the English speakers in the world, what do you think? This is my English speaking, and the rest of it, her being light-skinned, it doesn't, white nationalism don't mean anything to me. You're either, if you're a white person, you're a rainbow nationalist or you're a pile of shit. So her empire, her white nationalism, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. I'm glad it was overturned. I think a Commonwealth is the last gasp. It was the shade, the shadow. They might make it turn into something. But the best way for England to move forward, you're one piece, you're one country of 200. Now be the fucking baddest motherfucker of the 200. Have the fastest fucking, in the greatest swimmer, the fastest, the best basketball, the best football, the smartest, the chess player, the best robots. You're one of 200. You're special, but just as special as every other nation out here. No more special than that. You want our friendship? You used to say you ruled over us. You want to sit at the head of the table? Why wouldn't you let anybody else sit at the head of the table? You know, you could have sat along amongst us in your older age at 70 years and you never once sat amongst us. Some of these royalists I can't stand. There's Wilhelm, Germany. He said he didn't want a crown from the gutter. I don't want a crown from the gutter. When they tried to give it, the parliament, the Diet, tried to give him a constitutional republic, and he denied it like a dumb motherfucker. If he would have accepted it, motherfucking, you just married monarchy with the Democratic Republic, then the monarchy may live forever. Your family will live forever. The Kennedys, that's what the monarchy has to be, is the Kennedys. You have to win and earn the fucking monarchy by the sweat of your brow because you're a fucking badass, because you were president, because you're the attorney general, because you help usher in civil rights and integration and the end of the Vietnam War and everything else. So when I think of her as, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Fred Hampton or as a Princess Diana, she died at 36 years of age. The People's Princess. So she died at 96, 36. She had 3 times the life that Princess Diana had. That's not fair. That's some bullshit. John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Howard Zinn. I think of her not as a Howard Zinn figure, but like he was a regular guy, a historian. He wrote books, gave speeches. Didn't really have institutional power, wasn't a governor, wasn't the, CEO of Starbucks or whatever. Howard Zinn may be the king of the Angles. The king of in Shakespeare, whoever makes the English-speaking world look, Arnold Schwarzenegger may be king of the Angles. I'll be back. Get to the chopper! Get to the chopper! Whatever. No. So apparently Charles III is obsessed with the Commonwealth. So they're going to try to do something with the Commonwealth. But the Commonwealth is the British Empire. I don't want to break it to you guys, but the Commonwealth and America is not a part of the Commonwealth. There's 56 countries. Let's actually do that. Let's read off the countries and when they became a part of the club. The United Kingdom, 1931. Canada, Australia, 1931. New Zealand, South Africa, that left in 1961, rejoined in 94. India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, 1947, 47, 48. Ghana, 1957. Malaysia, 57. Nigeria, 1960. Cyprus, 61. Sierra Leone, 1961. Tanzania, 61. Jamaica, 62. Trinidad and Tobago, Uganda, 62. Kenya, 63. Malawi, Malta, Zambia, 64. The Gambia, 65. Singapore, 65. Guyana, 66. Botswana, Lesotho, Barbados, 66. Mauritius, 68. Nauru, 1968. Swaziland, 1968. Tonga, Samoa, 1970. Fiji, 1971. Bangladesh, 1972. The Bahamas, 1973. Grenada, 1974. Papua New Guinea, 1975. Seychelles, Seychelles, 1976. Solomon Islands, 1978. Tuvalu, 1978. Dominica, 1978. Kiribati, 1979. St. Lucia. Just having a book of like the Enlightenment, just passing out a little one of those tiny Enlightenment books would be a good thing for the English speaking world to do. When you're visiting countries, just pass out Enlightenment books. Then you're passing out Enlightenment ideals, are you not? Or maybe the U.S. Constitution, huh? Vanuatu, 1980. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 1979. St. Lucia. Kiribati, 1979. Belize, 1981. Antigua and Barbuda, 1981. Maldives, 1982. St. Kitts and Nevis, 1983. Brunei, 1984. Namibia, 1990. Cameroon, 1995. Mozambique, 1995. Rwanda, 2009. Gabon, 2022. And Togo, 2022. So Gabon and Togo just joined the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has been fucking dead for 13 years. And then before then, it was dead for 14 years. So yeah, the Commonwealth is slowly but surely. And then it never got America on board either. We're a part of the United Nations. We're a part of NATO. We're not a part of the European Union. We're not a part of the Commonwealth. You know, so, I don't know. In general, it's probably best to be part of as many clubs as you could possibly be a part of, but you don't want to cede your sovereignty too much. So, in a way, it's also best not to be a part of any clubs also. So, you know, just balance, just like anything else. So, that's the list of countries in the Commonwealth. What I think about the legacy of the Queen, I didn't really hammer anything down except for what the fuck, right? She's like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, which they got some sort of legacy. I don't know if there's anything specific with her because you do have prime ministers, so the decades, you can look at the decades past through the prime ministers, and you don't need the Queen to understand the time frame. So really just the Anglophone. She was Queen of the Angles, of the English-speaking world, and so she knew how to speak English. You know what? So does goddamn Jennifer Lawrence. So does Meghan Markle. And so does Eminem, you know, for that matter. And they rhyme. And they're clever. And they're, you know, funny. And they're colloquial. And they're not a bunch of arrogant, stuck up. Oh, I speak better than you, do you? You speak economics? I bet you she says economics. She's an economics.